Hello. Welcome to this evening's TI Technology webinar hosted by Texas Instruments. For tonight, we'll take a look at some strategies that you can use to implement the TI-84 Plus family on day one. I see that many of you are joining us for the first time, so we'd like to offer a special welcome if this is your first T-Cubed Professional Development webinar. We'd also like to thank everyone for completing the live survey on that right side of your screen. My name is Mike Houston, and I'm the moderator for this event. I teach algebra and calculus near Pittsburgh, where I use TI technology to make tough-to-teach, tough-to-learn concepts accessible to all my students. I'm really excited to introduce our two panelists tonight, Ruth Casey and John LeMaster. Ruth lives in Kentucky, where she taught mathematics in grades 8 through 12 for 29 years. A T-Cube national instructor, textbook author, and former member of the NCTM Board of Directors, Ruth specializes in grades 7 through 12 mathematics, instructional technology, and professional development for mathematics teachers. During the 2015-2016 school year, Ruth will provide training and classroom support as she continues her work with teachers in TI Math Forward and Gear Up programs. Thanks for being with us, Ruth.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be here. Welcome, everyone.
And John enjoys teaching mathematics at Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne, where he uses graphing technology daily to engage students. He has been a big part of the T-Cube family since 1993, presenting annually at conferences, providing professional development workshops, writing math activities, and serving as a consultant for Texas Instruments software and products. Thanks for joining us, John.
Thanks, Mike, and hello, everyone.
We're expecting a large crowd tonight, so your audio is automatically muted. Feel free to send questions to Ruth or John using the Q&A window on the right side of your screen. We'll also send general messages in the chat window. Once we move to the software, that right section of your screen will be replaced with a green floating toolbar. You can access the Q&A window by clicking the question icon. This session is being recorded, and as a reminder, we'll provide a link to the event certificate of attendance at the conclusion of the webinar. Once that recording is made available, if you'd like to follow along with your handheld or your software, and we truly hope you will, we do recommend doing this with the recording. That way you can download any activities and then pause and rewind the recording as necessary. We don't expect to have any audio issues tonight, but in the event that you do, try selecting Communicate in the WebEx menu, choose Audio Broadcast, and then click Join. At this point, Ruth is going to discuss our agenda.
Thanks, Mike. We're going to start out with some instructional strategies and tools using TI-84 Plus family of calculators. That would be TI-84 Plus, TI-84 Plus C, and the CE. We're going to look at software for using these tools in your classroom, instructional software TI-SmartView CE for the 84 Plus family, and we're also going to be addressing skills used on the handheld. Then we're going to move on to look at classroom activities that support our instruction and assessment and how some of these can be found in free online resources.
Thanks, Ruth. And John is going to discuss our expected outcomes.
Thank you, Mike. When we created the content for our webinar, we focused on what activities a teacher might do to make day one a great start to the year and what basic technology skills are needed. Your pre-registration questions helped us, and we really appreciate them. So these outcomes that are listed here, including modeling, calculations on the home screen, displaying data, representing functions in multiple ways, all will be takeaways from tonight's webinar. We'll close with sharing how, after the first day of class, you can sustain the momentum throughout the year using 84 Activities Central. So Ruth, what better way to start than right on the home screen? And I'll give the ball to you.
Thank you. So here I have launched the TI-84 Plus SmartView CE software. And we're going to start out with just a little tour of the software. Before I do that, I want to talk about where you can find access to this. On the education.ti.com site, when you see the illustration for it, over on the right, there's an opportunity to upgrade. If you're a current user of TI-SmartView, you'll have that. We'll be actually showing these on the browser in a bit, but we wanted to go ahead and just show them a shout out to upgrade. I believe that upgrade will be good through December 1st, so you just click there and find out more about that upgrade to SmartView.
That's great.
So that's at education.ti.com, and looking on the home screen, some information about SmartView. And that's just a screenshot of it in PowerPoint, not nearly as exciting as the real thing. So here I have launched the SmartView software. Just so you'll know, this SmartView software is good for my 84 Plus CE model, my 84 Plus C, and also my 84 Plus. I noticed as we were just getting started in the chat window some traffic about, I use 84 Plus, can I learn from this, can I learn about activities, and can I learn how to use the software? And the answer is yes, we can switch between models. They don't share information, but you can use the same software with each of these. Okay, new to the software design of the CE, we have what's called right here on the left. It's where I have mine. You can also move it. It's the calculator emulator workspace. That's when my calculator is going to emulate being the model of calculator that I have selected. So just like pressing buttons on my handheld, I can get a display here. I can get a large screen display. I can also view a key press history. And I can use the view cubed over at the right for my multiple representations. I can put in a function, I can graph it, I can show varieties of things, and we'll be doing those as we work through activities. And just a quick click of an icon, and I can make good use of those. Also looking at SmartView, I would like to mention that I'm working on a Mac. John and I had a good talk about we wanted to be sure and present the activities and look at the software in both platforms, PC and Mac. So I'm presenting on the Mac. John's going to be presenting on a PC. So hopefully we can address whatever questions you need. My Mac just hooks up to whatever projector I need in my classroom, whatever I can use, and then I can use the software as an instructional tool. I'm going to press some buttons, but one thing I do want to talk about is right up here on the top menu, wherever you can find it, under Help, TI-SmartView CE Help. This is a great resource, an absolute great resource. I'm not going to go ahead and click on it, but it's a self-help guided tour. Anything you can think of, chances are they already thought of it first. Anything I can think of, it's a great resource there. So that's under Help, the help of either the PC or the Mac version. All right. This is the emulator workspace. As I indicated, I press keys on the calculator, and they light up in red. If I'm on an interactive whiteboard, my students could be up there pressing keys for me. If I have a mouse just pass around the room as I'm projecting, they could be pressing those. A great way to get engagement going and to use it as an instructional display. Along this panel on the left, I can click a button, and if it's more convenient to me to have the calculator model on the right side of the screen, I can do that. I could switch it back. And something that I have found especially useful, I can put these tools along the bottom. I am not very tall. I'm tall enough for me. My feet reach the ground, but sometimes in a classroom, I can't always reach the top of an interactive whiteboard, and it is just really handy to be able to put these along the bottom down here. Okay, so they could be at the top. A lot of things can switch. Another icon down the left, the magnifying glass, Emulator Explorer Workspace. So those two icons on the left determine which workspace I'm working in. Kind of think of you plugged in a flash drive or something. What is the memory of this? And as I look at it, I've got some images, I've got some lists. If I wanted to keep those, I would just drag and drop it on my desktop, and then I'd have that file. If there is a file that I'd like to have on my emulator, I can drag it from my desktop or from someplace, wherever it is on my computer, and put it in my Emulator Explorer. Very nice click and drag, user-friendly there. I'm switching back now to the emulator view. We've talked about view cubed. What I haven't talked about is this button, where I get a large screen display or not. I've minimized it so it's just a calculator. Sometimes that's handy if I've got another file open and I just want, if I have a Word file open, oh, there's my document camera with my other models there. And sometimes I know in some software, interactive whiteboard software that you might have, whether it's your Promethean or Smartboard or something, you might have something up there and you just want to use that as a display. So we can minimize it the right side of the screen. Here I have a large screen display. There I can have the keystrokes beneath it. Just a lot of good flexibility. If I have a screen on my emulator that I would like to have appear in a document or somewhere else, I want students to know what window I've used or what graph it looks like, what the graph appears or lists. I can use the screenshot option to take a screen capture of that, and then I can copy and paste it wherever I want to, and what I do with it depends on the application I'm putting it into. You can also just simply drag the screen over to your software, to your other application. So that's just a quick kind of a tour of that. Hopefully we've answered some questions that people had in advance of the webinar. I know Dorothy from Texas was interested in learning more about using the SmartView in a Mac environment. So hopefully we've witnessed that. We have SmartView going right there on a Mac. We'll see it on John's PC in a little bit later. In Georgia, Matthew was asking about software for using this back in his former experience, either as a student or a teacher. He had some overhead panels, and now he'd like to transition to using it with computer and projector, and this is a great instructional tool for that.
Yeah, it really is. And you'll see some techniques we're going to use that'll highlight why it's more than just what the old one was. So the upgrade, I think you'll find, has got some exciting features to it.
I'm going to talk about a few basic skills. So I'll just be clicking some things. I'm going to stay in the 84 Plus CE version of this. If you have updated to the most recent operating system of the 84 Plus, that would be OS 2.55 MP. And when we have our browser up, we'll show you how to look for these things. 4.2 for the 84 Plus color. And then this one I'm using is the 84 Plus CE, and the latest OS for it is 5.01 and some more numbers after that. We'll put this up. You don't have to remember it just from what I'm saying. Plus, even better, we'll show you where to find it so that you can keep up with that. I'm going to just do a couple things using the fraction template. So I'm doing alpha, then y equals to access the F1 menu. That menu there gives me fraction template, and I'm going to choose choice 1. Just do a couple of things here. I'm going to press 4, and we see that icon flashing to press to the right. If I want to move somewhere else in that template, I'm going to press the right. That moved me to the 5 in the denominator. I'll get out of there. Then I want the plus. If I'm typing on my laptop, I can press a plus there, or I can have a student or myself tap up plus symbol and go back in. Let's retrieve another fraction, a vertical fraction, the way they look, the way we write them, and then I'll just do some fraction like this. And I don't have to worry about the mode of the calculator, fraction, decimal, mixed number kind of representation. I don't want to do a lot of changing of the mode. Just a quick look back in that fraction menu in F1, we see that choice 2 would let me enter mixed numbers. Choice 3 goes from a fraction to a mixed number or back, either direction, and choice 4 goes from fraction to decimal both ways. So if your calculator, if your 84 plus isn't doing that, your regular 84 plus isn't doing that, you need to be sure and upgrade to the latest OS, 2.55 MP for math print. Okay, I'll exit out of there. I don't really need that. So back down here. Do a couple more things. We wanted to, I want to be sure that you know that I have this in math print mode. If I didn't have it in math print mode, then I wouldn't have a vertical fraction. I wouldn't have some other features that are available when it is in math print mode. Would switch back to classic, but the whole family of 84s now can all be displaying that. I also have my mode settings pretty much default, everything at the left. I'm going to go back to the home screen. Second mode for quit and go back home. Go back to the home screen. Just want to talk a little bit about using exponents. The template might be a little bit unfamiliar at first. 3 squared, I can use the x squared button. It's really not the variable x. It just puts a nice exponent there, and that's all it does. You can see it's ready for the next symbol. If I want to say times 3 to the not squared, I can use the caret key, raise it to a power. You see it lifts it up there nicely, waiting for an exponent. Let me put 5. I'm going to move to the right to get out of the exponent there. We could press that, and it could be a doer for us, okay? It's a calculator. It will do those computations for me, but I want to take it a little bit further, do an exploration. All right, so I'm going to go into the test, second math for test, and I'm going to choose the equal sign. And I'm going to say, I wonder what that's the same as, 3 to the, so you could pose that question, have students guess, revise, make a prediction, go back and look at it again, or you might just start out with an example and say, here's an example of something that works. And when my calculator encounters something that's true, and in this case, I have a left side equal to the right side. When my calculator encounters something that's true, it'll give me a 1 for true. So let me see if it's going to tell me true for this. Yay, it's telling me true. So let's try another one. Somebody had asked, is there a good, easy way to copy and paste? I don't know if you meant on the home screen or not, but that's what I'm going to use. If I press the up arrow, it advances me up on the screen. There, I'm on the right side in the previous answer. If I press up again, it highlights the previous problem, and once that's highlighted, I just press enter to bring it down, and now I can edit it. So I can back up, I can type over some things, I could change the base, I could change the exponent, I could do a what if. That was somebody from New Jersey. I forgot to write down who it was, but thanks for that question about copy and paste. If that 5 were an 8, what would we expect that to be equal to? So just make a prediction, test, revise. All right, so let's say I'm just thinking I get in a hurry, or I haven't really understood the concept yet. I'm watching students work, and somebody put 16 because it's a multiplication problem. And so they're going 16, let's see. That's probably a really big number. I don't even care at this point what the number is. I'm just able to determine that the left side doesn't equal the right side, so I might move my cursor up, highlight, edit, make another prediction, and test it. So just some ideas about getting used to the formats on the screen with fractions and exponents, and also using it not just as a doer to do the calculation for you, but to explore some. Same way with logs. Put in a few examples of using log base 3 of 9 equals 2. That's true. So find something else that's true. Make a prediction about it and test it. Great introduction for logs. All right, I'm going to do something else now. I'm going to do the sine of, and I'm going to say the sine of 2 pi over 3. So I'm actually going to use my nice fraction template. I'm going to go into second y equals. I'll get my vertical fraction. I want 2. There's a pi. It is the second function of the caret key. So second 2 pi. Need to move to the denominator. I'm tempted to move down, but I'm just going to press a right arrow because that's what my calculator likes me to do. I'll get out of that. I'll press right arrow. I look at the top of my calculator screen. I see I'm in radian mode. Okay, so I've entered that as radians, and it's telling me that. It's returning that value. My students are beginning to study angle measures in radians. How does that relate to the angle measurements in degrees they might have been thinking about before? Just back with the fractions and decimals and other things, I don't want to worry over much about changing the mode. So I'm going to work the same problem, but this time try to get the answer, the same answer, sine of what? How many degrees? Sine of how many degrees? So let's just try. Let's try 120 degrees. Okay, and I want degrees. So I'm going to go into the angle menu. That's second of the apps key. I'm going to retrieve that degree symbol. That's the first choice there. As the teacher in me really likes to see that degree sign on there. I know that I could switch my calculator degree sign and leave it off, but to be correct in my notation, I need a degree sign on there. If it weren't on there, I'd have to assume radian. So I like my calculator to have the same presentation on that. All right, so I have those. You know, I might do some more explorations. Are there other angles that have that same value for the sine? And that value, that decimal value, looks like something. So it gives me an opportunity to do one more thing here on the home screen. I'll do this and square root of 3. Oh, I meant for that to be part of a fraction. Can I change it now? Can I press second alpha and say, let that be part of a fraction? No, I didn't really do it at the right time. So you have to be cautious about when you do that. I could do square root and then press the second alpha y equals, but I'll just go ahead and do this and this. I could have edited, but it was just quicker for me to type the whole thing from scratch. And I want the symbol here and square root of 3, move to the denominator, put 2. So just getting used to moving it around. We're used to that in computer software. Now we're used to it in the TI-SmartView emulator software, and we're used to it on our handhelds now. We can see, where am I? Where is the cursor? If I don't want to be in the radical, then I need to be sure and move out of the radical. If I want to be in the denominator, be sure and move to the denominator. So that's a few things on the home screen. I know that Patrick from Kansas had a question about using square root of -1 with fractions. So I'll just do one example here, and I'm going to do a fraction, and I'll say, let's do 1 plus, and I want I, imaginary number, that's not alpha I, that's second. And let me just put that over to or something, and see how my calculator likes to think about that one. All right, that works on the TI-84 plus CE. That expression will not work the same way, I'm pretty sure. I'm sure we'll get some responses in the chat on the 84 plus or the 84 plus C. They are not built to work with imaginary numbers and fractions at the same time, so an error message will return. But on the CE, and even better yet, in our teacher software that we're using in class, okay, we can get that to happen. So that's some stuff on the home screen. John?
All right.
I'm going to do just a couple things with graphing. Does that work for you?
Sure.
Okay. Graphing, I have to press my y equals, my function graphing. I can use the shortcut key here for my x variable. Just going to graph something like y equals 2x plus 1. It's my favorite linear equation of the day. I can do some shortcuts to find out what window I want to use. I won't spend a lot of time with that, but I do want to talk about the format of this software. If I'm teaching in a classroom and my students have TI-83, TI-84 plus, they don't have the new color 84C or the CE yet, I still can make use of this as an instructional tool. Okay, so I can make use of all of these format features and display things nicely up front for us to talk about together. All right, so let me just graph. I'll just graph this in a viewing window where I hope to, oh my goodness, what's going on? There's something in the background. All right, that's a feature of the 84 plus C and the CE in second zoom for format. The next to the last bottom down there says background, and I have an image showing. When the software gets installed on my computer and when I get the calculator, there are some images already there for me. Here's a quick rundown of what they are. You can keep those, change them, replace them with something of your own. Have students take their own pictures and relate them to the math concepts that you're talking about. All right, so let's look at that graph again. That might be more of what we expected. If you don't like the grid lines and the graph both to be blue, you can change the colors of those. If you need the axes darker, you can change it. All right, so good stuff going on there. If I press trace, I can move along that. It displays the expression up there. If I have the expression turned on in the format menu, I can press left and right and move around there. So just wanted to highlight some of the format options that you have. You can see that I had a grid line turned on. On the 84 plus, we have dots for a grid. We don't have the line option. But on my software and on the student calculator on the 84 plus C and the CE, I can do this. So this is the grid color. I try to get something that will allow us to see the graph, the function that's graphing, plus then also allow us to see the grid lines so that we can make some approximations if we need to. So there we go. We'll just do that. That might be a little bit better since the line that I was graphing was blue. That's determined in y equals. To the left of the y equals, on 84 plus, we can change the graph style, make it dotted or thicker, or have a path graph or shade above and below. And on the software, we can do all of that and more. If I press that, I can change the color and I can change the appearance of the line. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to display a table. This works the same as it does on my 84 plus. Second window to table set, second graph to display the table. Okay, on my 84 plus, I will not get that many things appearing. So because of the pixels, my screen on an 84, I'll say no to that. Here I've switched to the 84 plus, just cleared it out before we got started. Okay, if I graph something in DX, we can see that same functionality is there. I'll graph it in the same window that I was using before. Boom, there it is. I can go into second zoom for format, do a little bit with it in terms of a grid. I turn the grid on, I'll get a nice dotted grid. Over to the left of the y equal, I can affect the graph style a bit. All right, so just to see that. You might have noticed that I had to type y equal 2x plus 1 again. They don't share the information. They share the same software, but from one calculator model to another, they're not sharing that information. So that's a few things. We've had a brief tour of the TI-SmartView emulator software, and we've had a brief tour of some basic skills, some little bit how's it working with some menus and some graphing. I think next we're going to explore a few more things, and John is going to take us on a tour of, I don't know, we'll let it be a surprise.
All right. Thank you. All right, I would like to start off with, actually in the context of an activity and a question. One of the questions was, how do you drag something outside into it? How do you get some file off of the computer into the SmartView, and vice versa? And also, there was a question that was in the pre-registration about using the way to store a function. So it was Almira. She had asked how to save a function or expression as opposed to re-entering it. So just as an example, here is an expression in Y1, and suppose I had something hairier and I didn't want to type all that again, but that's just simple there. An easy way, and one way, not the only way, is using a graph database. So I'm going to share that with you. Imagine this is your calculator that you're holding in your hand. So this is how you would do it on your calculator as well as on SmartView. Is you go to second, and then you use the draw menu. I'm going to arrow right over to get store graphical database. And I'm going to plop that in there. And I'll share with you that you have 10 of these choices for graphical databases, and you're named 1 through 9 and then a 0. I'll just put a 1 there. And I hit enter to have that. There's another way to do it, and it's kind of a cute way with the calculator emulator. So here's y equal. Now, if I wanted to display the emulator contents, this is kind of like lifting under the hood of the car. And so it'll open, it'll refresh, and there's my y equal, and I can just drag that right off. And now, if I went and cleared this, I can drag it back in and it'll reappear. So there's a couple ways I've saved it. Now that's, of course, just with SmartView. The graphical database means that now if I recall the graphical database, which I'm going to do later in another activity, that'll also reappear. So I hope that answers your question. What I'd like to try to share with you is a fun little activity called name dropping. You're going to get a handout for it that you'll see here. Let's see if I'm going to get more showing it. I'm actually not going to show that to you. I'm going to share with you. I'm going to actually not describe the activity. I'm going to just simulate the activity, and you'll see it in action. So what I do in the beginning of my first day is I'll have students fill out like a 3x5 card, and there's lots of information I could ask. Also included in your packet and bundle of documents is this cute little student information sheet with all these kind of questions that the very first day you could ask students about what's important, what's your background, connecting with the student. I don't ask all of these, but you get the idea that there's some ways we can start by getting some information from our students that's very helpful for building that that bond, that connection that enables that engagement to heighten, and they're comfortable seeking help after that. So once they've got that on their 3x5 card, I ask them to write something that distinguishes them. What's something special? And I might give them examples. They all have their 3x5 card, and I distribute, here are their students, I distribute these little timers around in the room. And they might, whether I have timers or not, I can still do this. They could use their smartphone on an online timer, or they might have a timer on their watch. And I don't regularly put them around. They're unevenly spaced. And then I ask them to say what's on their card. They say their name and what's special. So you can see Fred's football and Alice likes pizza and so forth. All the timers had been, I asked them to start right at the same time. I only give instructions, I'm going to replay this, I only give instructions to the people with the timers, and I say, go. When you hear my word go, you start the timer. And so they all start at the same time. But those who say their name who hold a timer would have would stop their stopwatch after they get done saying it. So Alex stopped his stopwatch, but all of these are still going on. So you can kind of see the activity then collects this data. They are engaged in hearing what Betsy has to say and Caesar and then Rudolph and so forth, and they aren't really aware that they're doing a math activity. And so what's going on is I've got this double-sided kind of activity where I get them to bond with each other as well as then collect this data. And so here comes the data, and they've all stopped something. So I've got really rich data here. I'm going to put that data here, and we got a new question. I'll say 3 people spoke. That's how long. 5 people spoke. That's how long it was on your timer. And we ask, well, what was the number of to the nearest? What precision should we offer this? And so I'll say, typically we agree. Okay, what seconds is it? 5, 9, 17. So I've got data then I want them to plot. And so later I'll collect the cards, and then I can use them to randomly call on heads and so forth. So it's really, really serves me well. And if you've done an activity like this, and you've shared it, throw that in the chat. Now, what I'd like to do is show you that data. Let's put that back up. Before we graph it, I ask them this: how are we going to display it? And now, who is going to which of these is going to be on the independent? And so if you can throw in your own chat, Mike, do you have a second to tell us how they can again chat? I think they've got chat. This is really great. Just make sure to remind you to go to all participants. What is, Mike, I think I just took care of that for you. What is the independent variable? Is it students or is it seconds? And what kind of things you might stick in there, and on the independent variable, is it time or is it students? And so and you got a 50-50 chance. So and the fun thing about it is it really is time is showing. It's surprising that it's the actual dependent variable, and the independent variable is students. So we've got that data here. I'm going to press Stat and then Enter. And there is, now, you probably realized my simulation was really off the pale, and it was much faster than what would happen in class. So I've got real data here, and it took maybe 3 minutes to do that whole activity in class. And it's worth doing because now I can say, well, let's plot that. And so we've got that data, and because of time, what is important, I want to be careful about is when I enter that data to stick that in there. One of the things that what you have to do is watch where you're typing, and I'm going to press second stat plot, and I'm going to need number 1. And this is all set up for L1 and L2, and my color, I can use that in my mark. I just need to press on. Now here's where I'd like to actually use the view screen, view cubed, excuse me, to help with my window. So part of the thing that I have is a window, and I want to plot this. I certainly could use buttons up here where Zoom friendlies and stuff, but that first day, I don't want them to be spoiled. I don't want to give that away. I want to, I'm going to change that to list, and I'm going to see the data at the same time as I have a multi-screens here. And there's a way this shows no longer green. It means this is the last thing I did with the calculator. It shows what I have. All right, and I want to use 0 to, I'm going to just manually set the window rather than spoil them with other features that you might, I can go out to say 25, give it a little room, and then 0 to, out to say 200, and then they can earn the zoom stat that many of you might already know, other shortcuts and things like that. I'm going to leave the scales just that way, and I'll press graph. Now, why I do that is one of the basic skills that I think is really vital is teaching them that the window and the settings here are connected, that the table or the list editor representation, the numeric representation helps you set that Y max and Y min. And once they get really comfortable with that, they can get empowered. Now, one of the things that I'd like to do is share with you one of those basic skills of graphing. We've seen a little bit, thank you, Ruth, from some of the ideas you've done. I'm going to just tell you what I share with my students is I'll stick in a fit. It's pretty lousy, and I'll just claim it. That's a lousy fit. And I'll say, can you do better? And now, they have to go here and only change this to make it do better. They cannot go here. Again, I don't want dessert first. They have to earn that. They just have to go here and change this. And sometimes they'll make it bigger, and you can see that doing this manually enables them to overshoot and undershoot. It's kind of a game, and they'll play with work with each other in pairs and try to get the understanding of what that means. Anyone have a suggestion? And I'm so sorry, Anne, you're not hearing all the sound. I hope we'll catch this on the recording, because sometimes so 8 might work. I'm going to put 8 point, and then I have to retype that. And there you have a nice fit. So we've got that idea of using the data, using the graph, using the window, all on the first day in the context of kind of an activity that's an icebreaker. There's some other ways you can do this with the handout that you'll get. I'm going to share that with you that show all of these kind of things with more of the, let's see if I can get
John,
more
while you're finishing that thought, just let you know I've sent out in the chat window, or just asking, do people have a favorite day one activity?
That's great.
Use of the TI-84 technology. It can be intro to the 84, or it can be an activity like you're talking about.
Super, and it's wonderful to have this this kind of past, a lot of folks getting contributing to the discourse in that way. Some other fun things you can do, and this is back to the stat thing with this. There's lots of fun. I'm going to go to stat edit. Is that you can climb up here. Now that 8, I like to ask them, what does that mean? And I'll let students on their own fiddle, and sometimes they might take this and they'll say L2, and then they'll divide that by L1, and they'll get a ratio about 8.3. And so you can see what does that number mean, and how does that relate to the slope? And what are the units of the slope? And so you see it's 8.3 seconds per person. So we've got a really neat way to have the connection between, they just experienced an 8.3 second activity per person, and that shows up in their math. I would like to also share with you a fun extension we do that's really cute. And it's a fun icebreaker. And how I do this is they not only say their first name. Now I've done this in a learning community where they have a little extra time and they collect data a lot. But like Fred says, "I'm fantastic, Fred," and then Alice will say, "He's fantastic, Fred. I'm awesome, Alice." And then Alex might say, "Fantastic, Fred, awesome." So everybody, poor Heisenberg, has to say everybody's name before him and then say his own. So it really gets the students to know each other. And this data really is quite different. You can see there's a bit of a wrong turn there for some, quite different. And what do you think? If you could point out in the chat, do you think that, well, it's certainly not linear, what kind of model would that fit? And I'd like to throw that to you. If you could type in your thoughts on that. And meanwhile, I know there's lots of excitement of activities we can share. I wanted to recall that graphical database now and share with you how that can be used. And what I'm going to change so only I have my large screen. And I'm going to go second draw, and back to where I stored it, there's that recall database. And I'm going to put it in there. Now, why I do this and why graphical databases are really handy is that I have that hiding under y equal, and I don't have to show my students that. I can put stuff in my calculator without them seeing it on the display. In the old days, well, I could also blank the display or move it off, but that's an easy way to do it. Now watch what we can do here. Here's another activity, and the activity there that I would like to share with you is called investigating numerical patterns. So you're going to see this activity also in, and I've got to watch my mouse there. You're going to see this activity in your bundle, investigating numerical patterns, and it's called table walking. So, don't look at that. You're not supposed to see that if you were a student. But you as instructors already know, what that is. But here's the idea. Like another first day activity is fun is set auto for independent and ask for dependent. And without showing them what's in the y equals, we'll hit second table. And I'm going to, because independent was ask, I'm just going to hit the enter button, and it will unveil it as I wish. And so I wonder now, what might be the next, choice? Well, can they guess what might be next after that? And you can throw in your own in the chat. But look at the notice that the integers seem to happen to have a pattern. So you can get them to think about, is every even number going to be an integer? Every even input going to turn to an integer? And so can you tell me what might be the one at 0? If you see that and is it linear? Is this linear? And so we can get that idea of smelling out a linear function by saying, oh, wait a minute, you went from 6, 9, 12. These are climbing by 3s every 2. And careful now, watch what happens. If I climb up here, I can scroll up and I can walk the table backwards. And I can say, oh, that's what that is. And many students then can, so can you come up with a pattern? 3, 6, well, climb by 1.5. And did you notice that when I climb right here on the y1, then I'm going to have the formula showing up. And I point out that that's it's kind of against my rule, but you can also do other kinds of fun things. Here's another way to show you cut and paste. I can climb up here, paste and hit enter, and then type, I stored something else in there. I can do more than one at a time. And again, you don't want to have the view cube showing if you're not on an 83 plus CE, because it would show your y cubed. But I can pull these things and just fun activities where you get to tell what's the next one. And anyone have any thoughts on what the next one might be? If it's 21, you're absolutely right. Okay, And so these climb by 2s, 3s, 6 to 10 is a 4, a 5, a 6. This is so fun because they will wonder, well, what's the next one they can see recursively. And again, careful how you walk because I don't want to cover that Y2. I'm going to do the same up here. And as I notice, some of my students might see that there's a comparison between the columns, right? Patterns there, and these are twice. And if I scroll up, I can tell you, you might actually see what to do here by just seeing the pattern that might be 6 times 7 and 5 times 6, and that might be 10 times 11, and in general, we can get them to guess the rule. So sort of ideas of sticking your own little secret in there, and that actually is half of that. By the way, this, believe it or not, is what I was sharing earlier. That is the model for this. I do the previous amount plus 1, previous student's time plus 1. So this is actually quadratic data modeled by this if everyone took 1 second to say it. Now, Ruth, I don't know if you've got a little bit of ramming speed for our TI-84 Central.
I have a few activities we're going to talk about. Also, while we're transitioning, if you haven't had a chance, not just you, John, but if you haven't had a chance to look up and down that chat window, we're getting great ideas about how teachers introduce the 84, or if their students are already pretty familiar with the 84, how they ramp up their skills. So go ahead and do up and down your chat window. John's going to pass it over to me, and I'm going to do a quick discussion, quick preview, really, of how things are going in the 84 Activity Central. All right. John had some activities. As he indicated, you are going to be getting those files. Here I'm going to go back. This is education.ti.com. It scrolls through things on the home screen. There it's landed on 84
Wonderful.
plus CE. Now it's moving to another screen. I am going to, along the bar up at the top, choose Activities, hover over it, and the first one down is 84 Activity Central. Now, there are other ways to get that. You can see in the lower left, they're highlighting activities down there. Sometimes the things along the bottom change, so a good familiar way is under Activities, 84 Activity Central. I know we had some questions as people were registering for the conference. Where can I find some good geometry activities? I think we had maybe Karen in Massachusetts, Melissa in Texas, and some other people who were saying, where can I find some activities for my geometry students with 84 calculator technology integrated in there? So I'm at 84 Activity Central. I click on Geometry, and I'm seeing some topics down here. If I were to click on each one of those, it would open up to files, and I could see those, I could explore them. So 84 Activity Central is a great place to find some of these. Along the left, we see middle grades. I might not be teaching middle grade students, but sometimes I find activities, actually more than sometimes. Fairly often I find some activities in the middle grade section here that are actually very, very useful to kids not necessarily in middle grades. Doing some transformations on an object. Variables of renting. Sometimes I have students in upper grades that need some practice with the multiple representations, a scatter plot with some data, finding a rule, looking at the values numerically, the way John was showing this. There is a screenshot of a handheld with a split screen on the 84 CE. And remember, in your SmartView software, you can get that View Cubed feature. So I just clicked on geometry, then I clicked on middle grades. When you have a chance to browse in 84 Activity Central, you'll have access to those as well. I do want to mention the standards search here. I know that we had some people ask questions. I'm just getting started. My state uses this or this or this. If you click on standard search, You might be able to find something useful to you there instead of looking at the activity and seeing how it matches the topic or standards that you want to teach. Start with a standard search first and go down and find what you're looking for. You might not be a Common Core state, so you might look and see what's available for the state that you're in. Okay, something else I want to talk about under Solutions, Common Core State Standards. When I click on that, it has some alignment samples. On this screen for alignment samples, I have right there in little bitty .pdf red, .doc red. There's an alignment model. That is really, really valuable. It's the same document, one in PDF form and one in Word format. It's really, really useful. There, I've opened it up. Hopefully you can just have a quick look at it. If your students need to do this, what are some of the technology strategies that you can use? All right, so that was alignment models. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Some people have already done some work for us. We can search, we can look at their alignment samples, and we can look at activities. The very last thing I'm going to say under support, looking at, that's not the one I wanted, under professional development, online learning, have a look at the tutorials. You know about online learning with webinars. The technology tutorials are things that you can view at your own time that will help you catch up or review some calculator skills, or also students can view those tutorials. So that's just a quick look at some of the online resources available.
And Ruth, is there chemistry stuff available that you know where to find?
Under activities with Science Inspired, that would be for the Inspired handhelds. If I were going to look for something for the 84, I would do a search under all activities, and that's how I would locate it there. I would go to activities, I would click on all activities, and then I would look for it there.
Thanks very much.
And a reminder, if you haven't had a chance to scroll up and down in that chat, have a look there. Great comments coming in from all around.
All right, guys, thanks so much. I think it's time to begin wrapping things up. We do only have a few minutes left, so if you do have any last-minute questions for Ruth or John, please go ahead and use the chat window to ask those questions. I know that they will try and get them answered if they can. This will be the last webinar for our summer webinar series, but we already have a complete lineup for the fall webinar series ready to go. You can visit our webpage, similar to where Ruth had showed you a few minutes ago with the live webinars, and it gives you a list of all the upcoming webinars this fall. You can register for all those. They're all free. But this is just a little snapshot of some of the upcoming webinars that we're going to have soon. So if you're a TI-Inspire user or looking to learn more about the TI-Inspire technology, you can join us in a few weeks on August 25th. There is still time to register for some T-Cube summer workshops. There's a few left that are still open in the next coming weeks. So if you're interested in getting a little bit more PD before school starts, please feel free to check those out as well. I noticed a lot of people had mentioned that they had Twitter earlier. That's just one form of social media that we are present on. Please feel free to use Twitter or any of the other major social media outlets to make comments or ask questions about things that happen tonight. So if you're excited about something, feel free to use any of those social media outlets. To receive a certificate of attendance, go ahead and click the link in the chat window. That link contains the name of tonight's event. Also listed is a link to the documents that I know John and Ruth have mentioned a few times. So if you're looking to get any of the activities that John and Ruth used tonight, that documents link will automatically get you all those activities. If you happen to miss either one of those two links, have no fear. In a couple of days, you'll automatically receive a link to the recording, as well as a link to the certificate and a link to the documents and an email. So please be on the lookout for that.
So the
Thanks so much.
The event you signed on for is a live webinar. Every webinar that's produced throughout the year on these Tuesday night presentations is available as on demand, so you can have access to that. My thanks to everybody, all your helpful hints and questions and information that you shared. Thanks, John and Mike.
Yeah, I echo that. It's been really so engaging, so thank you very much.
I'm going to third that. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, John. Thanks, Ruth. And we really hope to see you back online next week. Thanks so much.